Welcome to Dreamers to Leaders, Keeping It Real with Melody podcast. Melody is a classic dreamer who started as a flight attendant and worked her way to now a tech fashion trendsetter, thought leader, and dynamic entrepreneur in various industries. This podcast is for the dreamers and doers. Learn how to think, act, and speak big as business leaders share how they turned from dreamers to leaders.
Hello and welcome to the Dreamers to Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Melody. Have you tried telephone conferencing or FaceTiming your physician versus going to the doctor's office? How was that experience like? What are your thoughts about it? Our guest today is a trained physician with healthcare experience in 3 different countries, from India, Russia, and the United States. Born in India, trained in Russia, and currently practicing here in the U.S. She speaks 5 languages, a healthcare visionary, and has founded a company called MediPocket, whose aim is to provide healthcare access across the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Priyanka Mathur. Hello, Priyanka. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Melody.
Let's begin. Let's talk about you and your new startup. We're looking forward. How was that journey like, Priyanka?
Interesting, full of, I would say it was a good roller coaster, then it was smooth and then roller coaster. So it had a momentum to it. And so I was born in India. I was raised there. I did my schooling there in India. Then I went to Russia to do my medical school, went back to India, worked for a few years in healthcare system, then came to United States. So it was a very interesting journey where I was able to cover literally half part of the world in different countries, got exposure to the healthcare system of different countries, and firsthand see the struggle of the patients and the doctors in the system. So it was really interesting. And I think that's when I came to United States, which is a land of dreams, as we call, and a land of dreamers. I came here. I wanted to, obviously, medicine is my passion. Healthcare is my passion. But coming to United States gave me exposure to, there could be a lot with the medicine that I can do, not just clinically treat patients, but can leverage technology and can touch more lives or lives out with no boundaries or no borders. So that's how MediPocket was born, with the idea where I can touch more lives and borderless healthcare system that I wanted to build through MediPocket.
Oh, I like that. Borderless medical system. You said roller coaster. It's been a roller coaster ride. So let's talk about the high points and the low points. What has been the most challenging for you, Priyanka, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so I think the first challenge was when I was when I from India went to Russia to do my medical school. And I always studied in I would say it's a missionary school in India, which is more like, all girls school and very kind of a strict kind of things around it. So when I first time entered into the real world, which is when sent to Russia in a completely different world, that was I would say a little challenging for me to adjust to that. But at the same time, it gave me a lot of confidence. I think not just being self-dependent, but in various ways, how to face things and not looking for someone for help, but you are all alone there, and how you would be handling things. So that was a little challenging. My first roller coaster ride started from there. And then when I came to United States, everything was good. Being a doctor, you always are in a very comfort zone. When you're a practicing physician, you always are like, have a cushion around and you're comfortable. But then I think as my personality, too much comfort makes me itchy. When you have enough what you need, then sometimes you get too comfortable and it's like, it's good, right? But then there are a set of people who's like, okay, this I achieved, now what? Next what? And I think definitely in United States gives us that platform, that opportunity to do things. Obviously, the world is changing. Now, I would say there are other countries there where the culture is changing. People are realizing that not just the said doing, being an engineer or a doctor is just the key to success, right? There's so many things that you can do with your passion and still build a very successful career out of it. So, but yes, United States, I think definitely help us to do it in much I wouldn't say easier, but it definitely gives more opportunities.
Opportunities, yes. So with all the countries in the world, you were in India. How was the thought process like when you were thinking, okay, I want to pursue medicine, right? And why Russia? And how long was the schooling to get to your degree over there?
Yeah. So, one thing about India, and I would say in Asia in general, is if you want to be a doctor, your family will be in full support. If you want to be an engineer, your family is in full support because it's only 3 professions that you feel like that your kid is going to achieve success in life or will be happy. Either you be a doctor, engineer, or a lawyer. So for me, being a doctor, I think I got all the support needed. So that wasn't hard for me. I got that support. But going to Russia was a little bit, I would say I definitely had to convince. And the reason of going to Russia was the healthcare system in Russia, or I would say the education, medical education is like of United States. In India, we get something called bachelor's in medicine, which is MBBS, whereas in Russia, we get MD. So you graduate as an MD. It's a little longer. India, it's 4.5 years. In Russia, it was 6 years, like in United States, but you come out as an MD. So, and then you super specialize afterwards. But that's the reason I wanted to, not just do a bachelor's, but I wanted to do the master's. And that's the reason I went to Russia to do that. And it was a little longer, 6 years, but worth it.
So the language, I saw somewhere that you speak 5 languages proficiently. That's amazing, Priyanka. So Russia, was that Russian? Is that something that you guys are taught in school along with Spanish and, so English, Sanskrit, Hindu, Russian, and Spanish? That's remarkable. So proficient enough to be able to take medical school over there and thrive for 6 years over there, right? So is that part of your educational system to have those languages? How did you become proficient in that language?
So I think it came more with the practical part of it. So English, Hindi and Sanskrit are a part of when I was growing up in India. So English, as you know, it's kind of a second language to us. And in some states, it's like a first language to us in India. So that was obviously English was a part of education because I studied in a British school and it was a part of education. Hindi, because I live in India. My family was a north part of India. So Hindi is what we speak at home. And Sanskrit, I wanted to take a Sanskrit because Sanskrit is quite close to Latin and it's one of the Asian languages. And I was very interested to learn that. So Sanskrit was something that an extra language I took in school. Russian, I studied or learned when I came to Russia. So before I came to Russia, I knew not even a single word in Russian, not even how to say hello in Russian.
What?
I was born in a land where people generally don't prefer speaking English. It's not that they don't know, but they prefer speaking in Russian. Even if they know, they prefer to be the language to be communicating language to be Russian. So that was an interesting thing, but I learned the Russian there. We did had a Russian language classes along with the medical studies because you need to know the language when you go for your clinical rotations. You would be interacting with patients. So again, patients won't learn a new language for you to talk to them.
Right. But Priyanka, even writing, their writing looks all different, right? So did you also have to learn that?
Yes. We have to learn, read, write, and speak, all 3. So
you learn the language with not even hello to begin with. So you're learning the language, you're learning how to write, and of course, learning the whole medical system, their healthcare system, and all that's necessary to get your MD. So that's quite a challenge you put on yourself, Priyanka.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Interesting. And I think it was interesting because again, being just simply going to a medical school and doing that is obviously it's challenging in itself. But when you throw these additional things to it,
right.
It's kind of a good, I would say, interesting 6 years for us.
So medical school wasn't challenging enough for you. So you kind of want to throw more of that, right? All right. So something interesting. That caught my eye in your bio when you said you're an enthusiast of AI, where AI and healthcare intersect. Talk to us about that, Priyanka.
Sure. Before I tell you how the intersection, and then I want to tell you like how tech savvy or technical I was before I even went into the journey of MediPocket. For me, AI was like this movie, like, this Transformer movie where the AI are these advanced, next generation robots are the AIs for me for. So when I started studying about AI, I was like, AI is literally very simple technology. It's the base of most of the things that we are doing right now, to be honest. Outside healthcare, if you look at e-commerce, if you look at marketing, if you look at other industries, AI is literally a base of that, In healthcare, obviously, we are the last one to adopt any technical thing because doctors and our healthcare people feel like that it's the knowledge that is going to help patients, get better or the health-wise. But sometimes we can make use of the things around us to augment us, to help us better. And that is where my interest in AI started. And when I started, making myself educated about it, there's so much that we can do with the intersections of AI with healthcare, starting from the primary care level. So, just to give you a very big overview is like AI is being used in healthcare, but on a very, very advanced levels, like, in MRI machines and all that, which is good, which is important. It's good. But that's not what most of the people day-to-day use healthcare for. Our day-to-day interaction with healthcare is primary care. And that is where if we can use technology, if we can integrate AI, I think it will augment the doctors and at the same time educate the patients about their own health. And that's where, my intersection points of AI are.
And I think it's a perfect segment to talk about your startup venture, MediPocket. So Priyanka, share with our audience your company, your startup, how it came about and what's unique about this company.
Sure. So MediPocket is a cross-border care with Dr. AI. The cross-border care part is a global venture where we connect international patients to the best US specialists and hospitals in the United States. Now, for most of the patients around the world, it's literally unapproachable to the specialist in US, talking about the cost, talking about the distance, the travel, and all around it. So there's a desire, there's a need, but there's no access to it sitting in their own country. With MediPocket, we want to provide that bridge using technology where sitting in your own country, you can still access the best quality healthcare with the specialists and hospitals in the United States.
Okay, so I see. So it's your target audience would be people outside US that want access to US healthcare system.
Right. The international, it's more outside overseas patients in a specialized care that we're looking for, the specialist.
Here. Who is your major competitor?
I would say there are definitely big companies that are doing teleconsultation, and they're doing international teleconsultations, but they are not directly doing the cross-border care. So the big players in the market are connecting best in US to the best to the patients in US only, like within the geography they try to do. There are not much companies that are doing this cross-border care as a virtual consultation platform. They are doing as a second opinion or as we call it medical tourism. But we are a little unique proposition is where we are not asking patients to fly as a medical tourism or anything, but providing them the access, like they would have access a local doctor, the same they can access the international doctor.
Oh, interesting. So I'm pretty sure you've heard of Teledoc, right? All right. So it's similar to that where you're actually speaking to a physician, but the difference is you're outside the US. Is that right?
I would say yes, very similar, like a teleconsultation. Only thing, the two ends here in Teledoc, both the ends of the portal, as I say, or both the ends, but the doctor and the patient are in the same country. Whereas in our case, both the patient and the doctor would be in completely different countries, and they will be communicating through the virtual platform. Also, another thing that the MediPocket would be is little different is because we are dealing with two different or multiple different healthcare infrastructures or healthcare system. So Indian healthcare system is very different, how the patients are used to giving their history or having their records with them compared to United States, where people are still much, or patients are still much organized as compared to other countries with their access to the health records and all that. So that's another thing, that we are helping patients outside United States to get them organized with their health information, which make them educated and a better advocate about their own health. Because sometimes patient just comes to the doctor and they are completely lost what has been done with their body and what is going to be done now. So patients need to be aware and a better advocate about their own health and the healthcare of their family and their family members.
So Priyanka, in any startup, there's always, obstacles, right? Hiccups. And as you said, roller coaster in steroids when it comes to startup. So what has been your most painful experience with this startup, and how did you overcome that, or are you still going through it?
Startups are like, you just never, it's never like, okay, now they're gone, the problems are gone. It never happens. I think even if you are the large startups like Teledoc or big companies like that, there's always something or the other. But obviously, once you're bigger, you have more resources to help with those or solve those. In our startup, obviously, in early stages, it's a struggle. And for me, the struggle started before I started MediPocket, because as I said, I was in a comfort zone. I was like, being a doctor, and my family is proud and happy about me and everything good. And then and then I'm coming to them and saying, okay, I want to do this. And it's like, why? Why you have to do it? Do you have so that thing about why, to solve the give answer about that why, is like, because I want to do something different.
Yes, I want to. Yes, I could totally relate to you.
It was not easy for them to understand, because again, as an Asian or as an Indian psychology, and I would say in general for parents, is like, you are a mother, you are a wife, you have so much to do. So why you want to add extra to your plate? You have so much to do anyway. So why extra?
So it's that explaining to your parents why you're opening this can of worms, or exploring different rabbit hole, right?
I actually tried using my words to explain my family members, like, okay, this is how it. And after some point, I actually stopped explaining. I was like, let my actions talk to them. Because if I try to say what I'm trying to achieve, not just on it has a bigger cause. To be honest, I'm doing it with a bigger cause, to touch people globally, to give them the access what they desire and need. So for them to just giving the explanation, I was like, okay, the words are not helping. Let me put actions to it. So I actually put action without telling anyone. I was doing my regular dating, and then I started the company. I got it registered. I started doing it. And then when I got my first application out, that is when I went to my family and told that I'm doing something like this. And they're like, when that started, when it happened? I was like, the day I told you, you didn't listen to me. It started that day. So I feel like sometimes we put too much time and energy, even in our inner circle, to make them understand what we feel or what we are thinking. But it's hard for them sometimes, because again, they're coming from a very different perspective. It's not their fault, but at the same time, they're just not getting it. So instead of putting too much time and energy explaining and get the approvals, just do it. And then they will see it.
For the longest time, there's a lot of people that would say, if you have a vision, if you really want to accomplish something, you tell it to the world. You let everyone kind of know what's in your head, etc. However, recently, new thought teachings are basically saying, as much as possible, if there's that major intent that you want to manifest, they're saying not to release it, because then it dissipates the energy or something to that effect. But in your case, not saying and just putting a lot of action into it was a better route for you, versus kind of getting the support and rallying everyone to your cause, right?
Uh-huh.
I hear you. And we also talked about how having a startup is already challenging as it is, but there's also all those, challenges, not looking like the mainstream, the white male, Caucasian that is, typical of. So you're kind of, there's also that barrier, whether we like it or not, that, hey, I know what I'm talking about, type of thing. So, so kudos on you kind of forging ahead with all the barriers that are laid out, right?
And I think it's really interesting. It's actually very satisfying, I would say, because sometimes when you're doing things, you're also paving the road for others who can, in smaller ways. Obviously, I'm not at a point where I can influence a lot of people, but even if your small actions, you can influence few people, and they can take as an example. You're like, okay, she's a girl next door. If she can do it, at least I can try. So you definitely pave those things for people as like, just take the courage, do it. Failures are never, set. I would say the failures are not that decide your things. Like, okay, are you a right person or a wrong person? Failures are just a stepping stone. They are experiences that add, good and a bad experience. They both are experiences that add and teach you. So I think that is also very satisfying when I talk to women, in my group, or when I talk to females around, and it's like, it's okay if you're not a techie. It's okay if you're not from an Ivy League. Right. If it's okay if you're not, you're not born here and you're kind of an immigrant. It's okay. This is a land of opportunity. It gives fair opportunity to everyone. Obviously, somebody has to work a little harder to get that, but it's open for everyone. So, why not to go for it? And
yes, we are blessed actually to be in a place where the opportunity is there. Not only that, the support and accessibility of resources pretty much are out there for the grabs. It's just a matter of whoever, the entrepreneur, to take that first step. And as they say, with action, it's either A, you win, or B, you learn. Yeah, either way, you win, right? So I like that. Now, personally, I'm curious because when I tried Teledoc, and that's not the mainstream way of consulting, right? So this is quite still new, especially with the pandemic. So faced in a situation where I wasn't feeling well, so that was available through my insurance, tried it for the first time, and within a minute or two, it was, fairly very quick. So that was satisfying to have something, in a snap of a finger. You have like an MD, or they say they are. They look like they are an MD. He was in scrubs and what have you. So he fits the stereotype, right? And, not feeling well, having to consult. But now in retrospect, how do I know if this dude is really who we say he is? He doesn't have my records. Usually vitals are taken first, right? Your blood pressure, your weight, etc. when you're in the usual office environment, if you visit your physician, right? So all of that has been scrapped. So I just said, oh, this is what I'm feeling. This is that. Okay. Maybe literally it was like 5 minutes. He said, so, with your symptoms, where is your pharmacy? Where do you get your meds? Mm-hmm. If I prescribe you something. And I said, here, okay, all right, I'll send the prescription and you can pick it up. Right? Mm-hmm. And I did, I took it. I don't know if the meds actually help, because typically if I have like a flu or fever, etc., it won't last that long. It took freaking 3 weeks, and that's horrible, So I don't know if the meds were too strong or what have you. I don't know. My point is, with this technology, yes, it's awesome. You know what I mean? Right away, you have access to someone that's a specialist, trained, or so they say. But how do we know if what they're saying really is who they say they are. If, you know, like with my doctor, I've seen him for a few years now. He knows me, I know him type of thing, right? So I think that's a challenge. What do you say? What do you say to those that have apprehension and are kind of reluctant to try this technology?
Sure. And, you know, it's actually a very common kind of, I would say, a feeling that patients share sometimes. And so teleconsultation, interestingly, is something not new. It has been there past 20 years in the market. The only thing is it became very visible, very adaptable only in the recent years and more so in pandemic. And it actually shows the value of teleconsultation, why it was first started with this particular reason is when the patients can't come to the healthcare system because of various restrictions. In case of COVID, we had a restriction of pandemic of not, you know, physically be able to go it for smaller conditions. When the patient cannot go to the healthcare system to seek help, how we can bring the healthcare to them, how we can bring the system. And that is only possible through technology. We can do that. Now, it definitely have, I would say, some restrictions, but the benefits part, to talk about the benefits, is one, you save time. You save your exposure going into, with minor conditions, going into a hospital or a clinic. You know, you expose yourself, your body when is sick. It's actually the immune system is already a little down. But when you go outside and you expose it, you're definitely exposing it to more, germs and viruses and stuff. So that is one risk that you have. The second is obviously you have to take out the time to do that. And some people who are very proactive, they do it, right? But we have a set of people who ignore it because they have so much on their plate because of the time, the work, the kids, that they just ignore, they try to push it. And sometimes these small conditions, if they are pushed without a medical attention, can take a bigger form. So teleconsultation provides you that access, and that feasibility that you can take the medical advice at the time you need. So that is, I think, the plus point. The second thing about that is, how do we get a confidence if the person sitting on the other side of the screen is actually a trained assistant?
Who they say they are, not just because they are wearing the doctor's
looking like that. Yeah. It's very. But one thing, every company does especially companies like Teledoc and us also, we do have a proper onboarding process with the what we call it, the verification process. So we do have the doctor's registration numbers, the board certification numbers are there. And in United States, the best part is, if you have any question or any kind of a doubt if this doctor is actually a trained physician or a licensed physician, you can simply take the name of a doctor, the full name which they provide you, either at the prescription or before the call, and put it into a public website, which is of our California board. There's a California Medical Board website. Every state has it. You simply put the name of that doctor and you would see there everything, details about when they graduated, from where they graduated, how long is the license been active, is there any kind of a malpractice on that or not. So everything is there. And that is what these companies do and we do. Before we onboard any doctor, we do all this. We do that due diligence, we do that verification before we put the doctors on our platform. So that is obviously the company does, but at the same time, the patient can do that too on that. And the last piece that you were saying about, when we physically go to the doctor office, they check everything, the vitals, right? And before we do it.
Yeah.
Now, medically, the vitals are only mainly important when you are in a critical care or when you're in an emergency room. That is where we need to administer some treatment right there and then, right? At that time, the vitals becomes more crucial, right? Otherwise, the vitals are, let's say if you're a diabetic patient or if you have a flu, they would be asking you how you're feeling. And as a person, let's say if for a female, it's more about low blood pressure in general, right? So the doctor would be asking you the right set of questions, how you're feeling, and it's like this and that. And it's like, okay, is your blood pressure generally in a lower range or a higher range? We just need to know the range. We don't need to know the exact number at that time until it's a critical condition. So that's why these vitals are more like, just supporting things there. but they are not needed for the treatment for a chronic condition or the conditions like flu and like that. But yes, if it's a critical, we do need to go in depth of the vitals. So that is why, in a teleconsultation, it's very well solved. In the teleconsultation, the most important part is the patient history taking. And generally in a 5 minutes call, it's hard. And that's why the flu, okay, you can treat it in a 5-minute call, but generally at MediPocket, our calls are actually based on, or the timing of the consultation are based on the condition. So if a condition is, let's say, if you're coming with a heart problem, or if you're coming with, whatever, like a diabetes or that kind of a condition you're coming, the time slots will be 15 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour sometimes, because doctor needs to know everything about you.
Let's say my personal situation, seemingly it's just maybe that, or symptoms of COVID, or what have you. Seemingly it's that, but you can't just blanket it and say, this is kind of what you need. So prior to this conversation, I'm ready to bash that type of technology. But you do obviously bring up a very good point. And somehow, it has to evolve, that type of, care and accessibility to a specialist.
And actually, one thing to add here, I think what the teleconsultation companies have to put a little bit, I would say, kind of a little refine a process in a way, because obviously in the pandemic it was all about give the medical advice or medical treatment right there and then, which is okay. It happened in pandemic. But in the long run, if we want teleconsultation to be in a mainframe, in that we need to evolve few things. For example, a proper patient history taking, regardless, as you said, obviously, as you may, the doctor understood your symptom as a flu, which is good. I mean, he must be a very well-trained doctor, but why to leave important or the critical information? There could be a critical information in your history.
So you touched on the vetting process, which I think is good, with the onboard here in the United States. I mean, I think what's good is a lot of public information, and it's easy to really kind of dig deep as to who this physician is that's really giving all these advice and prescription for you, right? So that's good. However, I just want to pick your brain on what your thoughts are when there was this findings that among 11 high income earner countries, the United States apparently is one of the lowest, if not the lowest, in terms of, accessibility, effectivity of the administrative process of this healthcare system. And who's leading? Norway, Netherlands, Australia, right? So I don't know if it's that universal healthcare system that works there. What do you think is something that needs to be addressed really in the healthcare system here in the US? Because as progressive as we are, right, with all the great things that this country offers, there's that flaw or gap in the healthcare system that seemingly from outside looking in, others have nailed it. They've gotten it where it works. Even Canada, I think, based on some friends of mine and family that are there, it seems to be something that really works. Mm-hmm. What's your thought on that, Priyanka?
Yeah, no, it's actually very interesting that you did that kind of research, and that's very, I would say, it's right that. In as far as when we come about the healthcare system, the US is not in number one, but US is in number one. I would say United States is in the quality of care. We still stand number one, but we do spend a lot. We in United States is number one in expenditure on the healthcare system, which is literally $3.1 trillion industry. That is what we spend. So it's a lot we spend on a healthcare system, which obviously it can be, I would say the technology can again help in that. And why do I say bring technologies? Like, let's say the number of people visiting the hospitals, number of people visiting the urgent care, the emergency rooms. they could be filtered, because sometimes if you saw in our emergency rooms here, or the urgent care, it's first come first basis. It's not based on the condition, which is it's not how it should be. It should be based on the condition, because a person who's coming just with a fever or a flu condition shouldn't be seen first because he or she came first. Now here, let's say, just giving a scenario, if you put technology in here, let's say AI here, part of it, which is, again, would be a history taking. Right? Before a patient comes to an urgent care or emergency room, they have to have this simple kind of a symptom navigator or a history taking form, right? Simple, like 10 questions. That way, when the patient is filling this 10 questions, screening questions, you can say, the system can then triage them in a way, okay, you need to go to the emergency room, or you can just take a teleconsultation, or you can visit your primary care physician, tomorrow or whenever it gets available. So it gives the patient a kind of a confidence, I would say, or more like a comfort that, okay, I don't have to rush right now because it's not a serious condition. Or, yes, I need to rush right now, or I can just talk to a teleconsultation. It will help people triage quite better if we use technology. So our emergency rooms won't be crowded, and it can take care of the patients who actually need the attention, physical attention, because most of them could be taken by the teleconsultation. Ones that need your physical attention because they need administration, IV or whatever it is, those should be going to the hospitals. So again, technology can help us in that. The quality wise, I will always say, as a medical person, have an exposure to the healthcare system of few countries, the quality of care or quality is still, we are number one. Again, the reason is the research facilities we have, the resources the doctors get. You get better when you have these resources in hand. Obviously, the doctors are so fine because they are provided with that.
From, relatives and aunts and uncles that have maybe gone through hip replacement or knee replacement or what have you. And suddenly it's weird, from limping and super slow when they're walking. And then suddenly they do the surgery after a month or so of rehab, and bam, they're walking faster than you, right? It's, again, I think technology and the availability of that is something for our listeners out there who are here in the U.S. not to take that for granted, right, Priyanka? Mm-hmm. That's accessibility and availability are gifts. They are, really something to be extremely, extremely grateful for. All right, so let's just step back for a minute and talk about your startup. You mentioned somewhere, I don't know which file you sent me, but you talked about your challenges, and you talked about people, you talked about funding. So where are you now? Where are you now with this startup phase? Mm-hmm. Do you have your prototype? Are you ready to launch? Did you launch already? How many subscribers do you have? Where are you in this journey? Exciting journey.
So give you a little glimpse about MediPocket. It actually started as a MediPocket prescription vertical. That was for United States. Mm-hmm. So that was about giving the patients a platform where they can compare the pricing of the prescription drugs among pharmacies, and then they can use a discount card with a partnered 75,000 pharmacies that we partnered in US, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico. They can use a discount card to save from out-of-pocket cost at these pharmacies. So that is how the MediPocket RX was started. And then we saw a bigger opportunity, a global opportunity where we can have a bridge connecting the quality care we have to the international patients. And that's how MediPocket.world, which is our global venture, a cross-border care, was born. So in that, we are in that journey, we have done a prototype. We have done I would say, a soft launch also, where we have consulted 100 plus patients already, international patients with the US specialist. We have partnered with 8 big hospitals or institutes in United States, like UCLA, Cedars, USC, and others. We have onboarded
Nice.
properly vetted specialist on our platform. So, specialists in a 10 major super specializations. So we have onboarded a specialist. And we are providing our patient who are sitting literally across world on a different part of the world, a very clear and an informed decision to make by giving the name of the doctor, a bio about a doctor, what, where they have worked, which hospital they affiliated, what are their specialty areas? Because as you know, let's say about cancer. We have 100 plus cancers, as you know, there are 100 type of cancers. So, and in one cancer also there are subcategories. So if the patient is coming with a particular condition, we always give them, okay, this specialist has treated conditions like you. So they have a specialty, they have experience in that. Another thing, we are very detailed about our intake form. So we do a very detailed history taking of a patient so that, first of all, our patient knows what their health is about. And then a doctor knows what the patient is coming with, not just saying in the present what's hurting, but in the past, what happened with their body too. So we take a very detailed history taking. So that's how, we have these 100 plus consultations done. Another interesting, or a USP is we have medical translators on the call, because now again, we are talking
nice.
Not only just geographical boundaries, but also sometimes language boundaries are there too. So that's why we want patients to feel comfortable that they can communicate in their own language. There shouldn't be any hesitation, any limitation of saying about their symptoms or telling about their health. So we do have a medical translators on the call, obviously from the consent of the patient, if the patient wants. So these medical translators translate what patient wants in their own language, and then obviously to our US doctors in their way. So that is how we have refined the process. It took us 3 months to refine it. We have refined it and we have done the soft launch. And we also have established partnerships in India. We have established partnerships with some insurance companies, hospitals, and diagnostic centers in India, because I think, first of all, it brings credibility to us where a healthcare institute support our platform. And at the same time, they have the right audience or the right, I would say, population that needs our solution. So going through them is giving us a bigger exposure to get patients, or I would say the users, much faster.
Mm-hmm. What has been the biggest barrier for you? Because I would imagine, healthcare system, pharmaceutical, it's $1 trillion industry. And some say they could be the big bad wolf that all they really want is it's a profit center and they don't really care to the degree. Any barriers like that where they say, this is just too good. Ain't not going to let anyone join the party. Something to that effect, or pretty much you're just getting a lot of support from insurance.
No, I would say any new thing that you start to disrupt or I would say level any system. It obviously comes with some kind of, I wouldn't say rejection, but pushback. See, that's a right word to say, pushbacks. So definitely, it was the same when I started MediPocket RX, which is the prescription one. It wasn't like I went to the pharmacy. I was like, okay, I want to get integrated with your API to give the live pricing to the patients. It wasn't came like with the open arms. Okay, yes, sure. Obviously, it took a little convincing. I think for me, a little leverage was because I come from a medical background. I am a doctor. So I was able to talk in medical terms. I can tell the patient struggle, the doctors, and how commercially it could affect these pharmacies, not now, but obviously in the near future. What could be the thing? So obviously the larger corporates are actually really smart to understand, and then they see, okay, are we having more danger not partnering or partnering with this one? Right. Or we, so they were able to easily see that. And it was easier. Obviously, it was hard to get the first 2 pharmacies, but I think afterwards getting another 75,000 pharmacies was much easier, because then you just reference this one did. And if you are not doing, how would it look? So then it became more like a reference process than convincing them much. So it was that. But doing the cross-border care, I think why the pharmacies and hospitals are partnering with them in India. Now, if you talk about commercial standpoint, like, why if I can make money by keeping patient to me and, keep them coming, why I want them to be better. And I think the answer to that, which became very understandable to them, is for the hospitals is like, if you make a patient get better, then you will attract 10 other patients from another institutes, because they will see like, okay, here people get better. They don't just keep getting sick, but here they come and they get better. And it will be a very non-biased opinion from a specialist sitting in a very different part of the world. First of all, they're specialists. And secondly, they have no interest or there would be no bias in forcing them towards a surgery or forcing the patient towards an expensive test. Because again, these physicians or these specialists are only getting paid for the consultation for a very unbiased, fair opinion. That's it. So they are not attached with any baggages about increasing the numbers of surgery in a hospital like that. And that is, I think, is kind of a leveraging or I would say a USP for the hospitals and our partners is providing that kind of a services to their patients. So that is how I was able to partner with the for the hospitals and the insurance companies in India. In US, it was much easier because you are giving the doctors and the hospitals an international platform, right?
Right.
They might be really, really popular in United States, but do we know these doctors outside the United States? No, most of the patients may not have heard about them. So you are giving them an international platform where they can increase this international, image of their
client
yeah.
base.
So, and these patients do come to here, like, for their treatment also, but it definitely increases the international clientele.
Yeah.
So that is what I think became very clear to these institutes. It wasn't something that they took much time to understand. And again, all the marketing, everything we are doing, what they just have to do, what they do best is just treat the patient when we bring them to you. That's it.
When you say we are doing, is it are you funding this by yourself, or do you have VCs, other investors?
Yeah. So right now, because this is right now we have launched a prototype and this is more like an MVP stage going on. So it is self-funded right now, but obviously we have a team. We have a team here in United States and we have an on-ground team in India. And I think that's, again, is a very the USP of us is we have the best of both the worlds, because I'm here, I understand the system, I have a team here. Then we have a team in India, which is in the healthcare system. So it's right now all, I would say, self-funded. We do have a benchmark that we have kept to ourselves, that this is what a benchmark. After that, we will be going out for the funding, because we believe we want to take others' money or outside money once we are ready and have proven with our with our, this, what the phase it is, the pilot. When we have proven that our solution, that is where we want to go for outside money, which hopefully soon we will be reaching that target, in few weeks that we have crossed our fingers for.
Very nice. And how exciting. And I'm pretty sure very rewarding. I think that's what's also awesome about being an entrepreneur, especially if you're kind of getting into the startup world. Really, it's like every phase, yes, has its challenges. But once you overcome those hurdles, it's like all these short wins. And there's always a reason to celebrate, every phase. So it's hard to get bored. And then here you are with another challenge. But I think that's what keeps you on your toes. And that's what makes it really exciting and super rewarding. You have, shared a lot, and we wish you like crazy amount of success with this venture. Do you have any final words, Priyanka? For our audience?
I would say I would want to just leave with a thought, which I always feel like, just do it without expecting a lot in return or expecting the outcome. Just do it and you will pave your next steps as you go. And before you get on any journey, I think the mission is always very important, that keep you going, because I don't think so the financial objectives are the main drive for any startup or any entrepreneur. It's all about the cause you're going for. So if that cause is really deep to you, close to you, you're sure able to go miles with that. So I would say keep the cause more on a bigger objective, and always don't give yourself a target or a success criteria, but it's like, okay, I'm going to do this today. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
I agree with you 100%, Priyanka. Well said. Truly, I think in life, it's managing expectation, right? And I think more so with any startup. I don't know if you know, I have this startup company. You know, it's been a few years now, but I could totally relate to what you're saying. If you have a bigger purpose, right? And money is just the barometer to say, hey, barometer, but more so a tool for you to be able to execute your strategies to get your desired result. So in this case, it's that global reach, right? It's that cross-border or what have you. And each startup would have to have that bigger picture that they're aiming for. It's very deceiving when you think, you know, money is the end goal. But
you can make money. I mean, if it's about money, to be honest, you can make bigger money elsewhere with doing a lot of other things and not struggling as you struggle in a startup. There's so many ways you can make big money. But so startups are all about mission that you work for. I think it's the drive is the mission.
The mission, and then later on, without even keeping your eye on the side effect, which is money, that will also fall in the right places. So for the startup people out there, keep that mission as your target. And lo and behold, whether we like it or not, the money and the rest, the satisfaction, the rewarding feeling, the passion, all that good stuff that comes with it will also follow. And again, can't stress enough the managing of expectation. So very good. All right, Priyanka, that wraps up our show. Again, wishing you continued success.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I think I learned a lot while talking to you also on a common grounds. What we all go through.
I know it. And for all our dreamers out there, keep believing. You got this. Till next time.